What's going on, everybody? This is Black Men Sundays. I'm your host, Corey Sylvester Murray, and we're talking about generational wealth, mental health, finance, and business.
It's a Black Man Sunday. Time to put all childish things away. I refuse to be the man I was yesterday. Gotta put my best foot forward and elevate.
And before we introduce today's guest, my brother Eric from Huntsville, aka Hunts Vegas, Alabama. Before we get into that Black Men Sunday spotlight, congratulations on your marriage, newlywed.
Well, appreciate it, man. Me and Miss Tiffany down at the bottom decided to tie the knot last Sunday. This time, actually last Sunday. So we actually are a newlywed.
Yeah,
so we appreciate
you looking fresh, man. You got a fresh cut looking, man. You looking rejuvenated, my brother.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's what a marriage life would do, man.
Who do you have for our Black Men Sunday spotlight?
Well, thanks for that, Corey. Today's spotlight, I'm going to feature Elbert Cox. Now, the spectacular thing about Mr. Cox, he was the first Black person to receive a PhD in mathematics in the United States. He was born in Evansville, Indiana, on December 1895. He earned his bachelor's degree from the University of Indiana in 1917 with a major in mathematics. Now, after serving in the United States Army in France during World War I, he returned to pursue a career in teaching. Now, before enrolling in the graduate mathematical program at Cornell University, September 1922, he taught mathematics in public schools in Henderson, Kentucky, and later at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, in 1925, he was awarded the Doctor of Philosophy degree in mathematics from Cornell. That's my spotlight for today, Mr. Elbert Frank Cox. Now, Corey, back to you.
Man, I love that spotlight. I love that spotlight, my brother. And again, man, like they say, happy wife, happy life, and congratulations, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Definitely. All right, let's go on to introduce today's guest. We have Jude Wilson, aka the Roth Guy. This brother's a chief financial strategist, Centrist Financial Strategies. We're going to find out what that is. How did he start that? But let's run this brother's background real quick. This brother has 2 bachelor's degrees, one in marketing and one in finance from Florida State University. This brother has a master's in business administration from Rollins College School of Business. That's in Orlando, for those not in the know. This brother has also worked for financial and insurance firms like Prudential, Wachovia Securities, Morgan Stanley. And this brother, next to his name, it says CWS, Certified Wealth Strategist. So without further ado, Jude Wilson, welcome to Black Men Sundays, brother. How you doing?
Corey, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for having me. I think I want to put you on salary to follow me around and be my hype man. Wherever I go, you just come in and introduce me.
I'll definitely do that. But let's go on and get started, man. Because one thing, this is our 112th show with Black Men Sunday. So that's 112. Yes, sir. So that's 112 hours of wealth conversations. We've had a lot of financial advisors on. I think you're the first financial strategist with that title, with the CWS behind their name. Just to, that's a big deal. But let's take it way back to, where did your passion for finance and wealth come in? Because you're coming out the gates with 2 bachelor's degrees from Florida State University. So just let's take it way back to, what was the impetus for the wealth building, and what gave you the interest in wanting to do that?
I'll tell you a quick story, but before I tell you that story, I really want to highlight what you're doing and thank you for all that you do, not only for the community. This podcast is a wealth of information. For those of you who are just joining this podcast, I would highly recommend that you go back and listen to prior episodes. You've got episodes talking about wealth management, talking about a financial game for couples. There's just a ton of information on here, and not only about the podcast, but what you do in the community with the Boys and Girls Club. So I just wanted to make sure that our audience knows that what you're doing is really amazing and it's helping out a lot of people.
Oh, wow. Hey, I appreciate that. And, really the whole point of Black Men Sundays, it's a podcast, but then we also have initiatives in the community. That turkey drive was just kind of just to warm everything up. We have other things coming up. So I applaud you for that. And I applaud you for coming on the show. But let's talk about you, brother. Let's talk about that passion for wealth.
I have a passion for this business, a passion for helping people achieve wealth or protect the wealth that they've already accumulated. And it all came from my parents' challenge. They were Haitian immigrants who came to this country, to have a better life for their kids. That was their main goal, but they didn't have much. We had a lot of love. We had, I have 4 older brothers, 4 older sisters, and we were a very close-knit family. But I did not realize we were poor until I went to a private school. And went to a private school, one of the few African Americans at that school, and I noticed, wow, these people have so much more than what we had. And so I like to tell the story of my folks. When you're Caribbean, Catholic, and have no cable, well, you have a bunch of kids. That's what you do. And so yeah, there's 9 of us all together, and my parents instilled success in us. But for me personally, it was about finances. I wanted to learn the game of money.
Yeah, that's great information, man. And let's fast forward a little bit, because in the intro I said you're the chief financial strategist, Centris Financial Strategies. Let's talk about that business. What do you do there? And for brothers and sisters that after hearing this conversation, they're going to want to sign up. Like, how can we do that?
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because that is a very specific reason that we chose Centris Financial Strategies. From the time I was probably about 18 years old, my oldest brother introduced me into motivational speakers like Tony Robbins and Tom Hopkins. And so I love listening to these guys. But later on in years, I had a mentor who told me, if you have an idiot and you motivate that idiot, what do you have? A motivated idiot. But if you go out and you educate people and you give them real tools and strategies to help them implement how to get someplace, it's totally different than just being motivated. So when we put together our company, we wanted for people to understand that we're about getting things done. We're about moving the needle. I don't want to just put together a financial plan and have pretty pictures and graphs and then send you on your way. I want to see that you're making progress on the goals that are most important to you. So one of the things that I did to differentiate myself was get this certification that focuses on wealth strategies. And there's a billion certifications in our industry. There's a certified financial planner, there's a CLU, ton of certifications. This one specifically is about wealth, creating wealth and protecting wealth for those who already have it.
And that's great information. And I was looking at one of your strategies. I thought it was interesting. And on our show, like I said, we're over 100 episodes. We've had a lot of financial advisors with different strategies. And one thing I noticed that was different, and also on Black Men Sundays, we just love new terminology. You have a term called bucket planning. I said, how is that different from a traditional plan? So let's talk about that.
Our clients usually fall into 1 or 2 categories. First of all, they're all usually pretty affluent, but they're either in a stage of life where they're accumulating wealth and they're moving to make work optional. So think of a mountain. When you're going up the side of a mountain, let's say you're going up the left side of the mountain, you're in the accumulation phase. Every dollar that you save helps you get closer to the top of the mountain. What's the top of the mountain? Well, that's financial freedom, where you can make work optional and have all of the choices. And so the other set of clients are in the decumulation phase. They're using that net wealth that they built to now turn that into income for life, so they don't have to worry about a paycheck. So my strategy that we've been using to help hundreds of clients get from accumulation, where they're working to build their net worth, to distribution, is called the bucket plan. And what it does is the specific purpose for each dollar that you make. Each dollar should have a purpose, a time frame, and a goal for dollars that you're setting aside. So those 3 buckets all are coordinated with a time and a purpose and what they're to do for the client.
Okay, now I have to ask you this question, because a lot of people listen to Black Men Sundays, and a lot of folks say, listen, I don't need a financial advisor. I don't need a financial strategist, but the brothers that are looking, they're saying, well, what should I look for in an advisor and a strategist versus me? I'm just been in this accumulation phase for like the last 15 years.
Right.
I only hear from my financial advisor if that money doesn't come out that account the first and the 15th of the month. I'm just being honest. So when we're talking about signing up with the financial advisor, what should we look for in that advisor that's going to cater to our needs?
Oh, Corey, I can't tell you what an excellent question that is. And it's one that I'm very passionate about. Because when I entered the industry after I graduated from FSU, I always knew I wanted to be involved in finance in some way. But when I got my job in investments was with a major investment company. I won't say which one because I can't afford a lawsuit. But uh, my manager at the time gave me the best motivational speech that I've had in my career. He said, Jude, I've been managing stockbrokers and financial advisors for almost 30 years, and I just love you. You come in early, you stay late, you're on the phones, you're doing all these seminars at Black churches. But I got to tell you something, Jude. If by next quarter you don't have the minimum number of accounts open, I'm firing your bleep, bleep, bleep. And at that moment, I realized that this was not about financial planning. It really was about financial sales. And so I've been very passionate over my career to try to explain to people, whether they do business with me or not, what to look for in a financial advisor. You want to look for someone who is actually providing comprehensive financial advice, looking at all aspects of your life. If someone is, the first thing that they say to you is, you would be a good candidate for a life insurance policy. We want to make you rich through growing your assets safely and getting a tax-free income from it. Oftentimes, people hear that and they get interested, but they don't understand that that's one strategy, and you have to be ready for that strategy for it to work. But also, sometimes the people that are promoting certain strategies, they only have one tool in their toolkit. They got a hammer. And if you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if I'm an insurance agent, I have a disposition to sell insurance. If I'm a stockbroker, I have a disposition to sell individual mutual funds or stocks. You have to look for someone who says, you know what, Corey, let's take a look at your life right now. Let's look at what are your goals for the future. And let's put together a step-by-step plan to see that you're making progress on achieving those goals. And here's some strategies that maybe you do know of, and maybe some strategies you don't know of that will help you get there efficiently.
Okay, and that leads to my next question, which I think my brother Caleb was going to ask it. So my bad if I'm asking this already, bro. So we've had a Wells Fargo executive come on this show, and he said 8% of millionaires are Black, only 2 to 5% of financial advisors are Black.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at that, you would think, okay, I should be more comfortable having a Black financial advisor. So that's why I asked you the question previous to that. But, what are some, when we're trying to select a financial advisor, what terms should we be listening to? What are some deterrents that if they say this, we're like, okay, Jude told us this, let's run. Because a lot of times I feel like people will hear that statistic and they say, well, I'm Black, I'm a Henry, almost a Henry. I want a brother to be my advisor. But, like you said, not everyone has all the tools in the toolkit. And then at the same time, like I said, you may only hear from your advisor when, that money is not coming out of your account.
Yeah. Corey, you hit on two issues that I am very passionate about. One is the Henrys, but two, how many African Americans are involved in this industry. So I go to conferences all across the country because that's really where we increase our knowledge on what's currently going on in the changes in the financial world, changes in taxes, all the type of things I talked about in these conferences. When I'm at a conference, I'm usually either the only African American there or one of maybe 3, 5, 10 at the most. And so I'm on a mission to bring more African Americans into this industry. Our failure rate is 98% after 5 years. Most African Americans are not in the industry. I've been blessed to be in this industry for 27 years now. And so it's important to me to go out and speak to young adults in college and tell them that this is a fabulous industry to build a career. You asked what to look for. There's basically 4 different channels in the financial industry. There's the banking channel, the insurance channel, the brokerage channel, and the independent channel. Now, each one of those advisors in each one of those channels will tell you, I'm a financial advisor. Really, whatever channel you decide to do business through, whether it's going to your bank and asking for an advisor there, or someone refers you to an insurance agent who says they're a financial advisor, you want to make sure that they are a fiduciary. Fiduciary means that they have to act in your best interest. There's a difference between a fiduciary and a broker. A broker is kind of like going to a meat shop and asking them for a certain cut of meat. They're going to give you that meat that you're asking for. Going to a dietitian is different from going to a meat broker. That dietitian is going to tell you about everything that's healthy for you that you should be eating. Unfortunately, the guy that's just behind the counter selling meat only has the meat. And if you have high cholesterol, he's not going to tell you you should be eating salmon. And so you want to find a fiduciary like that dietitian that's looking at your whole life and saying, this is what's best for you, not this is what's best for me and putting money in my pocket or selling you the only product that I have available to me.
Got you. That's great information. And before I open it up to my brothers, I have like 2 more questions for you real quick. One thing on Black Men Sundays, we've talked about Roth IRAs, which you're the Roth guy. We talked about 401ks in detail, but we don't talk about annuities. And I was just listening to a few of my coworkers because I'm 45. So that means when I was 25, those coworkers were 45. Now they're 65 about to retire. And just, hanging about a water cooler, I heard one guy say, okay, the 401k is great. The Roth is good, but that's finite money. My annuity is going to carry on past my life. So let's just talk about what an annuity is and how important is that to add that to your portfolio.
Yeah, I use the analogy of a tool belt all the time. So when you're building something and you've got your tool belt, you've got all of these different tools that are available to you to help you build that whatever it is, building a house, whether you're building some toys for your kids, whatever it is, you've got all these tools around your belt. An annuity is just one tool, and you want to make sure that that annuity fits where you're at in life. The basic of an annuity, it's very much like Social Security. We all know what Social Security is. We pay into the system, and then at a later date, we get income out of what we paid into and that everybody else paid into. An annuity started as the purpose was to provide lifetime income for people, income that they can't outlive, guaranteed income. And so the bad thing about my industry, unfortunately, we have people that look at products and they don't necessarily put the right product for the right purpose for the right person. An annuity, if you're getting close to retirement, annuity may make some sense for you, but sometimes people will choose a bond. The bond is a promise to pay and will pay income too. So if you walk away with nothing else, understand that when you're looking at your financial plan, you want to ask the questions to, if you're getting a financial plan through an advisor, how does this benefit me? Is the most important question to ask. And what are the potential pitfalls of what you're recommending? If you ask those 2 questions, that'll save you a lot of headache.
All right, so this is Kalali Dogbe, representing right now Prince Frederick, Maryland, by way of Hampton, Virginia. Always gotta put the props where where
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah. Definitely. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Definitely appreciate everything you're saying. So you talked about the longevity of, and I think you were talking about Black financial advisors not being a 98% fail rate. Is that, were you talking about Black financial advisors or just financial?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Among our white brothers and sisters and counterparts, the failure rate is pretty high too, but it's significantly less. It's usually around 87% after 5 years.
Okay.
So we have a much higher failure rate.
Okay. So my question is just a follow-up to that. What does it take to have longevity in the financial advisement industry?
Oh, wow. Holy cow, that's a great question. I think it takes really three things.
Mhm.
One, your work ethic. Two, your ability to go out and talk to people and really educate them and let them know what you do and how you do it. And then three, to really have that servant leadership in your heart that you really want to help people.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, in our industry, it's really, as far as the business is concerned, it's really about gathering clientele and making sure that clientele is really happy. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to make it. But those other two items, being able to educate and being able to be a servant leader, means
Mhm.
that you're not going to just do this just to put money in your pocket. You want a win-win for everybody that you come across. And people can tell that after a while. People can tell if you shiesty or if you really care about them and their future success.
So do you need a college education to be a financial advisor? How do you get started doing it? Because I know we had a couple brothers on here, have asked questions about that before, where they really have a passion for getting involved in financial advisement and financial industry. But of course, like we in our late 30s now or 40s, is it going to require us to go back to school, get a certification? What is really required to get started?
Yeah, well, I'll answer your question directly, and then I'll give you an indirect answer. The direct
Okay.
answer is you don't need a college degree to be a financial advisor. You
Okay.
do need licensing.
Okay.
So right now, what's happening in the industry, there's licensed financial advisors, and then there's financial coaches. Financial coaches don't need any licensing. They don't really hold themselves out as an advisor, meaning they can't give you specific advice on choosing this mutual fund versus that mutual fund, but they can coach you and tell you, hey, you need to put together a budget. So some people decide to go the financial coaching route as a career because it's less requirements. Those that decide to become a financial advisor usually have to have either an insurance license or some securities license, and there's several of those.
Mhm.
Now, as far as going back to school, you do promote your career with the level of education that you have. Because when people see your website or look at your resume, if you've got a CFP, a CWS, an MBA, people will feel that you're a little bit more knowledgeable. But I've met advisors who advisor who was my mentor, never had a certification, was in the industry for 30 years. So is it absolutely necessary that you have those things? It's not absolutely necessary that you have a certification, but does it make you a little bit more viable? Absolutely does.
Don't need it, but we'll recommend it.
Absolutely. There you go. That was this abbreviated version of what I said perfectly.
All right. So I got one final question for you. I heard that you said that you've done seminars at Black churches as well. Like, what kind of seminars have you done at Black churches?
Oh, I've done every topic you could imagine, from budgeting to multi-generational wealth. My favorite two seminars that I do, one is called the Ticking Tax Time Bomb. Let me backtrack and give you a foundational tool that I talk about with my clients. It's a term called financial termites. Termites in your house can eat away at your house and destroy your home, but you
Absolutely.
don't see the termites. They're behind the wall. There are financial termites. There are people are losing money unknowingly and unnecessarily. And if they can regain those dollars that are going out the door, they don't have to get as high of a return on their investments, because now money that was going out the door is now helping them. They've recaptured those dollars and it's helping them increase their net worth.
Wow.
So I talk about financial termites because almost everybody I know has at least a few financial termites. And the biggest one is taxes. Once you write that check to the IRS, rarely are you ever going to get any money back. So you need to be able to use all of the tax laws to reduce your taxable liability to the lowest limit. I'm not one of these conspiracy theorists that says, oh, there's a code in the Constitution that says you don't have to pay taxes. No, we all have to pay our fair share of taxes, but listen to me closely, our fair share. And what makes the difference between our fair share and somebody else's is how you're able to use the tax laws to reduce your liability to the lowest level. So so I do a seminar called the Ticking Tax Time Bomb that talks about the fact that taxes, believe it or not, are at the lowest level they've been in a generation, but they're about to go up in 2020, at the end of 2025. There's a act that is going to expire that reduced the tax rates to the current level. That act is going to expire in December 2025. And more than likely, rates will go up significantly. So I see Corey shaking his head. Corey loves paying taxes. You can tell.
Well, my perspective is a little bit different. I'm a public policy person, so I believe that, the government, the government in most circumstances uses our taxes to do stuff to service us. So I'm not a person who's against paying taxes, but again, I'm listening to what you're saying. Everybody should pay their fair share, which means you got to be able to identify, what your experience is, what your life is, so that you can know exactly what your fair share should be.
Exactly. It kind of a little trivia. I when I first went to college, I was a political science major and then switched over to business. So I
Okay.
love public policy too.
Okay.
But these days, it's very difficult to talk about politics and not have people get upset. So I try to avoid that topic.
Yeah. I try not to derail this show with politics talking, but I use it to for this show, I use it just to listen to what people are saying and ask certain questions that might be related in some kind of way. But definitely appreciate you, man. Definitely appreciate you for taking your time. That's all the questions I got. Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was listening to one of your other podcast guests talk about personal finance. I forget the gentleman's name, but he has a company that talks about wisdom in finance, and it was an awesome episode. I hope to complement what he did in his episode by talking about action items that people can take. And really, I think people should start off by looking at the financial pyramid. The CFP board puts out something called the financial pyramid, or you can Google just financial pyramid. And basically, just like a pyramid, you have to have a strong foundation. And it shows you on the financial pyramid the levels of creating wealth. And starting with creating that foundation, the foundation should be making sure that your risk factors are taken care of. So, I got to have an emergency fund. I got to have life insurance. I got to have disability, because if there's people that depend on me and something happens to me, they've got to be taken care of. So creating that foundation is usually where I start with all my clients. And most of the time when clients come to me, they've already created a pretty good foundation. They need me to help them take them to the next level. But that's something that I never want people to walk away with a meeting with me without saying, man, I learned something that I can do right now. And so I want people to be able to look at that.
Definitely. And that's what we do on Black Men Sundays. I think you're talking about Dre Griggs with the Obsidian Wisdom. Yes. And the thing about that show, and I kind of want to ask you a similar question that I asked him, because the whole impetus of his show was, if I want to retire in 5 years, if I want to retire in 10 years. But then sometimes with the economy and the jobs, they're saying, well, you know what? You've been on your job 20 years. You're not quite 65, 67. And I feel like they keep raising the retirement age. Like,
Right.
see, so when we talk about taxes, that's why I shake my head. I'm like, okay, 65, 67, soon it's going to go up to 70. Hope it doesn't, but I'm just saying, I can just see that.
Absolutely.
But when we talk about like life insurance, when we talk about the 401ks, when we talk about these Roths, and then you decide, you know what, I don't want to wait till I'm 65 to retire. I want to retire at 60. My job may have, I'm not going to say let me go, but they may have offered me a package that's attractive to say, you can retire now. So let's have that long-term and short-term conversation.
Yeah. That's why I tell people putting together a financial plan has to be comprehensive. You can't there's no such thing as a perfect investment or a perfect insurance policy or whatever the product is. Really, when you're looking for perfection, the only way that you get perfection is to putting together a plan and having a bunch of different things working together to get to the goal. So when you talk about your 401k or your IRA or Roth or all this, understand that that's just one component of many ingredients that go into the cake. The issue that I see most of my clients have is they don't know the proportions to put in the ingredients to get the right cake, right? And some of them may not even know the right ingredients to put in. So when the other gentleman was talking about personal finance, there was so much great nuggets from it. I hope to add to people that where they should begin is looking at where they're at now and deciding to either find a professional to help them put together a documented step-by-step plan and understand the benchmarks. Because all of us here, we're still working, and at your job, you have certain benchmarks that you have to hit, or else you're going to get let go. You get that either that monthly or quarterly goals, and you better hit those goals. And my clients are usually very top-notch professionals. They're used to the pressure of hitting goals, but in their personal life, they have no benchmarks. I want to retire in 5 years. Okay, what does that mean? How much do you need to have to produce the income to replace your paycheck? Is that $2 million? Okay, now let's back into what would it take from where you're at now to get to $2 million? What are the actions we have to do? And then on top of that, let's see how we're progressing either quarterly or semi-annually. Because if we're not making progress, why are we doing this? And that, I think, is one of the biggest failures of our industry. You go to a financial advisor, they put together a pretty financial plan, they give it to you, it makes sense to you at the moment, you go home, you put it on the shelf, and you don't see that advisor until they call you or next year at your review. That's not going to cut it unless you're a super disciplined person and you're going to take those steps on your own to benchmark things. The way that we do it is a little different. We put together a financial plan, but we also have a tool that we call Elements that looks at different categories of your life and categorize those categories. And those are the benchmarks that we're tracking. One of them that almost everybody has a problem with is something we call burn rate. How much money is going out the door as opposed to how much money are you saving? You're burning that money. That's why we call it burn rate. So I met with a client recently that makes a very high 6-figure, almost 7-figure income, but their burn rate was 82%. And I said, we got to fix this because there was only one person that turned water into wine, and I'm not that guy. So I need your help in getting this burn rate down to a reasonable level. And through our technology, that client is able to see where they're at on their burn rate on a quarterly basis. So if we say you're at 82 now, but by the end of the year, we want you to be at 75, we're tracking that. And there's no way that you can, when you have a personal trainer, they're telling you, do that next rep, push that next rep, right? Well, I'm the personal trainer with finances. So when I see your burn rate and we agreed we're going to get to 72, but you're still at 80, then we have to have a conversation as far as how important is this goal to you? And are you willing to take the actions to get there?
Oh, that's great information, man. Are you enjoying yourself on Black Men Sundays?
I am loving this. This is great conversation and great fellowship.
Definitely. And I have a few more questions before I let you go. One thing I want to talk about is, when we talk about, we've had guests say you need 7 streams of income. We've had guests say you need 3 streams of income. And then we've had, guests come on the show says, listen, I quit my job to be an entrepreneur. I struggled for a little bit. Now I'm doing well now. And I say that's a very sexy topic when I'm on social media. Oh, you can have lunch at noon with your kids every day if you want. But when we're talking about from a financial strategist perspective, we all know the stocks, your main job, and if you own a business are like I feel like the 3 freebies. So when we talk about that, but if I'm talking to you as a financial strategist and I say, Jude, I want to quit my job and start my own business like you, what do I need to achieve that goal?
I cannot tell you how much I love this conversation because I'm very passionate about this. My mom and dad were business owners. I feel a lot of people who are immigrants come to this country and, they come for the opportunity and they usually start a small business. And my mom and dad were no exception to that. So I have a special place in my heart for people that start their own business. But let's really understand what it takes to either get to retirement or have the instruments that will help you grow your net worth so that you can retire. Back in the day, maybe your parents or grandparents had 3 different streams of income in retirement. They had Social Security, they had their pension, and they had whatever money that they saved up. So we're used to, as Americans, have multiple streams. It's just we don't think about it in that way. And those streams now have changed. Most people don't have a pension. Social Security has its challenges. So as you said before, Corey, the retirement age may at one point get to 70. So now we have to form our own multiple streams of income. And with the clients that I have, there are millions of ways to become a millionaire. I see some clients that have their 9-to-5 job, plus they do real estate. I see clients that have their 9-to-5 job, and on top of it, they're an author. But I do believe in that principle of having multiple streams of income. And most of my clients now do not want to retire at 65 or 70. They want to retire as early as feasible. And so we're challenged to help them figure out a way to get there, but to be realistic about it. You know, some people say, okay, I want to retire in 5 years. Well, if you've got $100 in your 401k and you don't have the ability to put significant money away, you're not going to retire in 5 years. Let's just be straight with each other. And sometimes I have to tell people the hurtful truth, because it's not all sunshine and rainbow. We need something that we can document, that we can follow, and we can be strategic to help you get from point A to point B.
On my TikTok page, I did a survey, and I said, you know, when we're talking about relationships, whether you're married or whether you're just living, you know, with your spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the situation is, a lot of couples say that they don't discuss finances. So how important? Yeah. So I'm saying from a financial strategist, certified wealth strategist perspective, how important is it for couples that are in a marriage, maybe engaged, but they don't feel comfortable having that conversation because she may not want me anymore if we discuss this, if I'm not paying all the bills, but she makes more than me. Because women are elevating these days. Women are killing us. I'm just being, women are killing men. My man Kalali, he first started that conversation with another guest where he says women have more degrees, master's degrees, PhDs, but then outside of all of that, they're bringing in more money. But a lot of brothers are saying, well, how can I have this conversation? Because I want to be the man of the house. I want to pay all the bills, but she's really the breadwinner. So how do we have that conversation and make it comfortable?
Yeah. Well, you hit on 2 issues there. One is a term that I call Henry's, high earners, not rich yet. And one of the niche markets that we work in is successful female Henrys. So these women have done an amazing job going to school, getting their career right, and they're making more money than they've ever seen before. And you're right, sometimes, unfortunately, on the opposite side, they don't have a male counterpart that's making that level of income. But regardless of what level of income you're bringing in, communication between a couple about finances is probably the most important thing that you can do. I just recently met with a couple, both of them college grads, both of them 6-figure incomes, but the one spouse was more into the finances than the other spouse. The other spouse kind of just, I'm working, money's coming in, and that's all I'm concerned about. The spouse that engaged me was more concerned about where are we going to be in 15 years? When we put together the plan, it made sense to both of them. And the one thing that really touched my heart is the spouse who was more concerned about finances. When I said to him at the end, kind of like you said to me, how you enjoying Black Men Sunday? I said to him, how did you enjoy this process? Does it work? Did it work for you? He said, not only is this process logical, but I can follow and see where I'm at. But the best part is I don't have to be the bad guy to my spouse. You are giving the information to telling them that we need to be more dedicated to this process. And so when we're talking about generational wealth, I also tell people to have an annual family board of directors meeting. Bring the kids in. talk about the finances, because we are some of the first African Americans to have significant wealth this generation. Some of us are not accustomed to having this level of resources. And if we want those resources to last a second, a third, a fourth generation, we've got to educate our family members. I say all the time, in your lifetime, in your kid's lifetime, in your grandkids' lifetime, you'll probably never see a broke Kennedy. Why is that? Well, Joe Kennedy, who was the patriarch of the family, started the Kennedy Trust, Kennedy Dynasty Trust. And now 3-4 generations after him, those adult children are living, are partially being supported by the trust. So we have to have these level of education and conversations. I talked about the Kennedy Trust. This is one thing that I don't hear people talking about a lot on these type of shows. You've got to protect your risk factors. You can make 100% return on investment, but if you get in a car accident tomorrow and it's your fault, guess what? You get that call from Morgan & Morgan, you're going to start shaking in your shoes because you know it was your fault and they're coming after you. So asset protection, particularly those who've accumulated some level of wealth, it doesn't matter if you've accumulated 100,000 or 100 million. Asset protection is really important. And one of the keys to asset protection is having a trust, because the trust is its own separate entity. So I get in a car accident, give you a perfect example. Hulk Hogan, many years ago, he had retired. His son fancied himself a race car driver. He had gotten into a car accident with his best friend. His best friend, unfortunately, suffered the brunt of that car accident, became a quadriplegic. The best friend's family sued Hulk Hogan. We don't know, because they settled out of court, how much they won. But soon after that lawsuit, Hulk Hogan was wrestling again. Why? Because he probably needed the income to pay off that lawsuit. And then he then in turn turned around and sued his financial advisor for not recommending asset protection and how to protect his assets from liabilities. One of the simplest things he could have done was not have the car in his name, the car of his son. He should not have had it in his name, and he could have had a trust also that could have protected his assets. So I just wanted to mention that, because I rarely hear people talk about establishing a trust, and that's a very important tool.
Definitely great information, man. And for brothers and sisters that say, listen, I kind of like this conversation, Jude. Centrist Financial Strategies, is there a minimum income requirement to sign up? Like, how can we contact you?
Yeah, we're on the website, centristfs.com. We've got a YouTube page. You can contact us through either one of those things. As you said in the beginning, I've started a persona called the Roth Guy. We're going to be putting out a lot of information about how to reduce your taxable liability, how to create more tax-free income. And so the type of clients that we serve best are usually people that have disposable income. They don't have more month than money at the end of the month. I know we all started there. I definitely started there, trying to figure out how I'm going to pay these bills and make sure I got money at the end of the month. But the clients that we have are typically people who have disposable income. They're trying to figure out ways of leveraging those dollars to make those dollars pregnant dollars, and those pregnant dollars have babies and increase their net worth and get to financial independence. So you don't have to necessarily be a millionaire to be our client, but we do work with people who have already either have high income or have amassed some amount of net worth.
Great information. And for other brothers and sisters listening, like, man, I'm not balling like that, but I have I have a pension at my job. My Roth I've been paying that since I was in my 20s. So, I may make less than 80,000 a year, but I have streams of income and I have
Yes.
money that can work for me. So would that be someone that you can
Oh,
also?
absolutely. Because there's some advisors, to your point, some advisors will say, well, my minimum account value is 500,000 or 300,000 to work with me. And typically for us, what we're looking for when we first meet a client is what's your cash flow situation and how much assets do you have? Yes, it would be better if you had $300,000 in assets already that we can manage for you. But if you don't have $300,000 in assets and you have the ability to put away $25,000 or more a year, now that's a potential client that we could work with. So we need people in as clients that they have resources that we can just help them make those resources more efficient.
Great information, man. I said I was done, but I think I got like one
Hey,
final
man, we could do
question.
this all day. This is my
Listen,
favorite topic. What are you talking about?
Okay, okay. So my final question for you is, because when I'm looking at your resume, you worked at, like I said, Prudential, Wachovia Securities, Morgan Stanley. And this is an entrepreneur question for you. At what point did you realize I can do my thing?
So again, I won't mention, this is a different company. I won't mention the name, but that's the point in which I realized I needed to do my own thing was when I was working for this one company, and my manager at the time told me that we had to put together an estate plan for a client. And the estate plan normally will have a life insurance policy attached to it. Because when you die, if you have a high net worth, you have estate taxes. So what most affluent people will do is they'll buy an insurance policy to pay off the future taxes. So my manager told me to put together that estate plan, and I went to them, and we only had 3 insurance companies to choose from, and I analyzed it, and each one of them were crap. And so I went to my manager and I said, I just don't believe in any of these companies. I have some prior experience in insurance. If you want, I can do some research on some other companies that'd be more appropriate for this situation. My manager kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, no, that's fine. You've done some good work. Choose one of those companies. Went back to my desk. I was looking at it again. I was like, man, I don't like any one of these companies. Could they do the job? Absolutely. Is it the most efficient? No, there's probably some other companies out there. So I went back to my manager and I told him, I really think if you could just give me 2 days, I promise you I can get something better than this. Manager got upset and said, look, I already told you once, I need you to choose from these 3 companies because those are the companies we have contracts with. And I walked away feeling, I can't say the word, but I just felt miserable. And I called up my wife and I said, this is it. I can't do this anymore. I need to be able to have the flexibility to look at the open market and in my heart know that I'm choosing the best thing for my client. Is it always the best thing? Well, no. Sometimes we look at a product and we think it's going to work out one way and it works out differently. But at least in my heart, I did the research and I know and I feel that this was the best thing for the client because the data was there. It fit the situation. And it's not just because we have only 3 contracts. So that's when I said I needed to do it myself. But that entrepreneur journey isn't easy. I've listened to other episodes that you've had and people talk about their entrepreneur journey. And we normally all start off struggling. We do everything from the CEO to the chief garbage man. We're doing all of the jobs. But then if you're following a path, if you're willing to change, if you're willing to listen and to learn, and if you've got a great work ethic, you can get from that bootstrap level to the next level. But it's not just because you're a good cook at home and you think you should open up a restaurant. It's because you're a good cook at home and you've done the research on what it takes to be a successful business owner. The skill that you're good at doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good business owner. You need that skill and you need business strategy to teach you how to become a true business owner and trade your time for dollars and have your dollars creating leverage and more time for you.
Yeah, that wraps it up right there. I love that. Jude Wilson, man. Thanks for coming on Black Men Sundays. I enjoyed your time. I really could go like another hour, but I know my wife is going to kill me. So,
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, but great information, man. Thanks for coming on the show. We're definitely going to have to connect because you're local. So we're going to have to connect.
Yeah, I'm here
brother.
in Orlando. So let's fellowship some more, man.
It's a Black Man Sunday.